Chairman Cornyn and members of the Senate committee, thank you for having me here today. As you've stated, I'm the sheriff of Goliad County, Texas. We're a small rural county sheriff's office about halfway between Houston and Laredo on Highway 59. So we're on a major corridor for legitimate and illegitimate products going to and from the border. I'll get straight to the point. The border Biden policy has had the most significant negative impact on the safety and security of our communities in South Texas in my 31 years of law enforcement. As an example, in Goliad County at the Sheriff's Office prior to 2021, the Goliad County Sheriff's Office averaged 77 arrests per year. From January 2021 to date, we've averaged 413 arrests per year. That's a significant increase. I looked in our records and found no records of smuggling of humans cases or engaging in organized criminal activity cases prior to January of 2021 for our law enforcement agency. From 2021 to 2025, the Goliad County Sheriff's Office arrested 96 people for smuggling of humans and 126 for engaging in organized criminal activity. These kind of activities have skyrocketed throughout Texas as a result of Biden's open border policy. On top of that, we've turned over 145 illegal aliens to Border Patrol for processing and possible deportation. But this policy has brought quite a few other things, including significant property damage. In South Texas, there have been thousands of events where smugglers have driven through fences and have caused much damage to private property, tearing down fences. There are multiple ranches in South Texas that have over $100,000 in fence damage per year as a result of this open border policy and the cartel incursions into South Texas. Many rural houses have been abandoned out of fear of the cartel smugglers going through. There's been a drastic increase in the auto theft of pickup trucks throughout South Texas, because what many people don't realize is that the smugglers are using stolen trucks. That takes tens of thousands of vehicles to get millions of people through South Texas every year. And those vehicles are stolen from Texans and used in this illicit trade. Trespassing on private property has become a commonplace to the point where many of the ranches have been abandoned, where people fear being on them. In Goliad County alone, even though we're 180 miles from the border, in 2021, we discovered 16 cartel stash sites in our county. Those are just the ones we found by going out and looking. We had what was described as the Department of Homeland Security as the largest inland cartel stash site ever discovered in the United States of America. But the property damage is just part of it. It's the physical and the psychological damage, and I will give you just a few examples starting in 2021. We have a lot of residents in rural South Texas with credible fear of the cartel smugglers coming through their property. In April of 2021, a traffic stop in Goliad County led to the arrest of Brisa Santana. What we found was Miss Santana had been recruited in a bar in Dallas by a gentleman from Mexico, and she had gone down to the border and picked up 3 girls who were all in their late teens, early 20s. And they were being told that they were being brought into the United States to be reunited with their family members who were already illegally here in the U.S. But our investigation revealed that Ms. Santana had fake Social Security cards in her underwear when we got her to jail, led to further questioning. And what that investigation revealed was those 3 young ladies were considered especials. They were never going to be reunited with their families here. They were being taken to Chinatown in Houston to be put in sex slavery, indentured servitude. As you already pointed out, earlier this month, we caught the murderer in our county. We've dealt with a lot of different violence as a result of the Biden's open border policy. But I will leave you with this. For anyone who does not believe that these things are happening, I'm going to leave you with a quote from a letter I found in a sex slave house from a raid I did in Rockport, Texas. The letter that I found there starts off with, "Dear daughter, in the USA, we sometimes have something called a slave boy or a slave girl. We call it an indentured servant." This letter goes on to articulate that it takes 5 to 13 years for these slaves to buy their freedom once they're brought into the United States of America. That is, unless they're sold to a new master before their debt is paid off. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and I will yield for any questions you have.
Ms. Nobles?
Thank you for having me here today and allowing me to speak. On July 27, 2022, I received the worst news that a parent can ever get, that my newly 20-year-old daughter, Kayla Hamilton, was found deceased with injuries consistent with a homicide. There are no words to describe the heart-wrenching, soul-crushing pain of losing your child so horrifically. Kayla was a happy and loving person. She loved life and God. She loved going to church and learning about Jesus and the Bible stories. She showed the world that being herself was okay, and you didn't have to follow everyone else. She was extremely ambitious, and despite having autism, she was determined to make her way in this world. She loved animals, especially her cat Oreo, and cared about the homeless. At first, we knew very few details of the murder until an arrest. At the end of March of 2022, Walter Javier Martinez was apprehended by Border Patrol crossing illegally into the U.S. at the southwest border in Rio Grande City, Texas. Martinez stated that he was 16 years old and he feared gang activity in his country in El Salvador. As a UAC, Martinez was granted access into the United States with no background checks or vetting. Health and Human Services and Homeland Security did not verify the sponsor and allowed Martinez to go live in Frederick, Maryland. There were behavior issues with him living with the sponsor, and he ended up staying with his half-brother who lived in the same neighborhood mobile home park as Kayla. There were behavioral issues with Walter, so the half-brother called the property manager of the mobile home park, which I thought was a legit company. We learned that an illegal immigrant who was a priest owned some of the mobile homes and allowed his cousin to rent a home to a 16-year-old gang member in the same mobile home as Kayla. Through the investigation of Kayla's murder, we found out that this priest and his cousin knew Walter Javier Martinez from El Salvador and knew he was running from a homicide. And they decided to put him in the same mobile home as Kayla. Kayla and her boyfriend and young family did not know Walter Javier Martinez, and they did not know their rental rights and didn't know they had a right to say no. They were all afraid to say no in fear of getting kicked out onto the streets, so they said nothing. Martinez was only living there for 5 days before he violently and brutally murdered my daughter. Walter Javier Martinez broke into Kayla's room while she was sleeping that morning. Kayla left a voicemail on her boyfriend's phone. According to the voicemail, a struggle was going on, and Kayla was heard crying, groaning, and struggling to breathe. Martinez was also heard on the voicemail hushing her and near the end telling her, "I'm sorry," in Spanish, while continuing strangling her with her phone cord. After she was deceased, Martinez tied her up and sexually assaulted her. This was confirmed by the annual swabs that matched Martinez's DNA. Kayla fought for her life that day. She had bruises up and down her arms, her fingers, the left side of her face, her back, and down her leg, and deep wounds to her neck from the cord. Local police knew right from the beginning that he was the main suspect just by their initial investigation. It took the Aberdeen Police Department to confirm that Martinez was a known MS-13 gang member and that he had a criminal record in El Salvador in 2020. If Health and Human Services or Homeland Security would have done a background check, then they would have known this, and Martinez would have not been able to be on U.S. soil. With Martinez being 16 years old, Maryland Child Protective Services took custody of Martinez until the DNA results came back. The Aberdeen Police Department was very transparent to CPS. They told they did tell Child Protective Services that he needed to be held in a secure location because he was a threat to society and based on the murder and injuries of Kayla Hamilton. It was later learned after Kayla's murder, Child Protective Services placed Martinez in a group home with other children where he was able to attend a public high school. And then when he had behavioral issues at the group home, they put him in a foster home, which allowed him to enroll into another Maryland high school. While in jail, a letter was intercepted that Martinez wrote confessing to 4 murders and 2 rapes and admitting he was a MS-13 gang member. Martinez ended up pleading guilty and taking the plea deal of 70 years. Since he was a juvenile at the time, even though he was tried as an adult, Martinez could not get life without the possibility of parole. Not only was Kayla's life put at risk and taken, so many other children and adults were at risk. The Biden-Harris administration did not put the American citizens' safety first. We need to ensure the safety of our citizens and protect the children from being the wrong peers and then placement in the wrong group homes with unsuspected gang members. Background checks and vetting should be required at the start so that agencies can check for criminal records and gang affiliation in their home country. Sponsors also need to be screened and verified. Under the Kayla Hamilton Act introduced last week by Representative Fry, Health and Human Services will be required to gather background information on all potential sponsors and every adult in their household. If Homeland Security and Health and Human Services had checked Martinez's background, then they would have known that he was an MS-13 gang member, and my precious daughter Kayla would still be alive today. All both agencies had to do was make one phone call to El Salvador, and they would have known that he was an MS-13 gang member and that he had a criminal record for illicit gang activity. To prevent such tragedies from happening again, the Kayla Hamilton Act will mandate background checks on UACs and the sponsors so that no person will be at risk. Sorry, I went over a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Nobles. Mrs. Vega.
Thank you, Senator, for having me here and allowing me to tell our story. My name is Maria Herrera Vega. I am an angel mom and the mother of two incredible sons. Javier Harvey Vega Jr., my firstborn, one of my two pride and joys, an amazing grandson, son, brother, husband, father, you name it. He was it. He was just amazing with a heart of gold like no one you have ever met. An American with a love for his country, law enforcement, life, and family. Harvey joined the United States Marine Corps 5 months after graduating from high school. He served 4 years. After leaving the Marine Corps, attended college while working a full-time job. Immediately after graduation, he was hired by Christus Spohn Hospital as a biomed technical engineer. In 2006, he joined the United States Border Patrol until 2014. Javier Harvey Vega Jr. Remember that name. Jordi Vega, my second baby, another amazing son, joined the United States Marine Corps as well, same as his big brother. He was deployed to Iraq 3 times. We nearly lost Jordi when the convoy he was traveling in hit an IED. On his 4th deployment, this time to Afghanistan, he and his men were ambushed and Jordi was shot in the arm. He served 9 years in the military. Jordi now lives in Louisiana and works for an American company. Sunday, August the 3rd, 2014 was a day that started off with wonderful memories of our U.S. Marine and Border Patrol agent son and his family visiting us. The entire day was planned, good quality family time, a barbecue, shopping, rifle sighting in preparation for hunting season, and some fishing to end the day before they headed back home. Instead, late that afternoon, our beautiful day turned into a nightmare when 2 criminal illegal aliens decided to ambush us in an attempt to steal both 4-wheel drive trucks. The 2 illegals jumped out of the stolen vehicle they were driving, and without hesitation or a warning, they began shooting at us, without even asking us to hand over the keys. In the process, Harvey was shot in the chest. My husband, Javier, was shot in the back, and they continued shooting at the rest of us, which included me, my daughter-in-law, 2 grandsons, and their friend. When I heard the yelling coming from the illegals while they shot at us, I fell back off the chair that I was sitting on, and I struggled to get up, but instead had to crawl to my son, who had tried to pick up an AR, which he had left leaning by the truck to defend us. Do you know what it is like to see your son go down after being shot? Do you know what it is like to hear the gunshots, bullets whizzing past you? Do you know what it's like when your mind is trying to process everything, telling your grandchildren to duck, while thinking your son is on the ground with a bullet in his chest? Do you know what it's like to hear your son's last words to his father? Keep shooting, Dad. Keep shooting were his last words. That should never have happened. The illegals not only possessed a stolen vehicle, they also possessed guns that were stolen. They each had a long list of crimes, including holding a gun to a toddler's head if the family did not hand over the keys, their money, their phones, their vehicles. Who does this to a toddler? They had served time in county jail, been previously deported, fined $10 in order to self-deport again. These same illegals had robbed our friend Douglas Light on his very own ranch in La Feria, holding a gun to his grandson Paul's ribcage and threatening to shoot him if Doug did not hand over the keys to the truck. Doug did as he was told, and the illegals drove off with the truck, trailer, and the lawn equipment. Going back to the nightmare that we lived, had my husband and I not returned fire, the illegals would have killed everyone there, leaving no witnesses. And that's including my grandbabies. 5 days from today, it'll be Harvey's 11th angelversary. 11 years is how long I have lived with survivor's guilt. 11 years is how I have struggled, how much I have struggled to survive without my baby. 11 years I have lived with flashbacks during every waking moment. 11 years we have celebrated the boys' birthdays, graduations, weddings, starting new families, new careers, and amazing accomplishments without my baby. 11 years I have witnessed how his killing has impacted the community, our families, his work families, his childhood friends. I have seen the heartbreak in everyone's voice, hearts, and actions. Illegal aliens have impacted American lives in a very negative way. They have no regard for human life, as I witnessed firsthand. The illegals that killed Harvey also shot my husband in the back and shot at innocent children and women. My grandbabies and their friend were only 8 and 11 years old. Take a moment and imagine your child or grandchild witnessing this horror. How does that make you feel? Would you be okay with this? Had our immigration laws been enforced, our son would be here. Barack Obama failed me, my family, and our community, and our nation. My husband now suffers from PTSD. He is handicapped because of the extent of damage the bullet caused. Nerves and ligaments were severed when the .45 caliber bullet traveled from one side of his waist, narrowly missing his spine before exiting on the other side of his body. I want you to know that we do not have an issue with people coming to America legally. We do have immigration laws in place for a reason, and they need to be enforced. And as politicians, you need to allow those in charge to enforce these laws. We are not a lawless nation. I myself was not born in America. I am the daughter of an American-born father and a Mexican-born mother. However, my father did not smuggle or sneak us into this country. After marrying my mother, he stayed by her side in Mexico until he applied to move us back to his country. He waited patiently, filled out all the necessary documents, and paid all the fees. He never even asked for government assistance, making do with his pay as a farmer and carefully planning for times when the weather did not permit work. He taught me and my siblings to be God-fearing, hardworking, law-abiding citizens. My 2 older siblings and I are proud naturalized citizens, and my little brother is a U.S. citizen. La Feria, Texas, my little town's population is about 7,000. Our little community has lost 3 young lives to illegal alien crime. Noemi Dominguez, a 26-year-old teacher murdered by criminal illegal alien Angel Maturino Resendiz in 1999. Some of you might remember him as a railroad killer. He was a serial killer that murdered so many people throughout America. Javier Harvey Vega Jr., 36-year-old, father of 3 boys, a U.S. Marine and Border Patrol agent, murdered in cold blood in front of his family by Gustavo Tijerina Sandoval and Ismael Hernandez Vallejo in 2014. They both had a long list of crimes they committed throughout the Rio Grande Valley. If committing these crimes was their job, it doesn't seem to me like they were producing anything in the community. They were not contributing to the community. Maria Macias, a 37-year-old mother of 3 beautiful young daughters, killed in a car accident caused by illegal alien Bedelin Alegria in 2022, who instead of trying to render aid, fled from the scene of the accident. That's 3 young lives from my town. This is what family separation really looks like. Not one angel family will ever see our loved ones again. Their lives were taken by illegal aliens. Now that you know a mother that had to shoot back to defend and protect her family, do you still believe we should have open borders? Open borders have consequences, and you can see from what I have experienced, because of the crimes committed by illegals, that pain lives with us for the rest of our lives. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution and work for we the people. That means working with your fellow politicians, regardless of which side of the aisle you are on. You are supposed to work together representing us, ensuring that those coming in are obeying our immigration laws. They need to be properly vetted for not only for their safety, but yours and ours. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Ms. Vega.